Good evening, people, and welcome. And for those of you who are watching on replay, welcome. So happy you could join us. Gosh, it's another one of those Tuesday nights. And so today has been a challenge and 3/4, but, we're still here. So started off with conversation with my attorney this morning. As you all know, I sold my store 3 years ago, and so I sued the person who bought it for breach of contract and won. And they came up with some really phony paperwork saying that they couldn't afford to pay me. And so we let it drop for a while. And so I had an appointment with my attorney this morning saying, no, let's go ahead and the whole reason that I brought this up in the first place was because I couldn't afford the $300 a month on the Xerox machine lease that was left that she refused to pay for. And so as a result of suing, I ended up having to pay the $9,000 that was left on the lease. And now I owe the attorney because, it turns out that even if you win and the other person's supposed to pay attorney fees, if they don't, you're liable. So I'm paying $400 a month for the next 4 years to my attorney and attorney's fees for him having won the case for which I've got no money. So, the only other way to do it now is I said, go ahead. Let's see if we can't get her in jail for contempt of court because she didn't provide everything she was supposed to or do everything she was supposed to. And then we'll go ahead and take care of the rest of it that we can do legally. So that started my morning off. And then I've had problems with the HOA today. And oh gosh, it's just been one of those days. A Tuesday to remember. So thank you all because you are going to... one of the other good things is I did get a call from Maggie earlier today. And so she is in the path of this hurricane. All of those of you who are in Florida, lower Alabama, Georgia, in the path of this hurricane, I believe it's Helene, our prayers go out to you. Please stay safe. It looks like it could be a Category 4 by the time it hits the Florida coast. And so we definitely want you to hunker down or evacuate as the case might be. Make sure you are staying safe and protect yourselves and your families and your loved ones. Lives are more important than property. So, just do what you need to do. There's Maggie. Great. Do what you need to do. But your life is far more important than your property. Please take care of yourself. Maggie was saying that probably the decision needs to be made by as early as tomorrow as to whether or not you're going to evacuate. Now, this hurricane is going right up the west coast of Florida. That means that the primary north-south roads for evacuation, you're going to be running parallel with the storm if slightly ahead of it, or you definitely don't want to be behind it. So make those decisions at the appropriate time. But please remember, at least if it doesn't matter to you, it matters to me. Your life is more valuable to me than your property. Let's put it that way. So please take care of yourself. Let's go in and say hello to everybody and see who else here. So let me see here. Shenanigans, welcome. Good evening. Aldo Schmidak, good evening. Aldo is also over on New York Prepper's website, and he came home safely from his visit to Poland. We were very happy that he made it home before the conflagration occurs. And so that's a great thing that he's back home with us safe. Scott Hummer, good evening and welcome. Good to see you as well. Suzanne Goulet, Rebecca and John. Maggie, I said. Let me see anybody else. Scott Hummer, Diana too. Theoxerus, good evening. Butch Graves from Colorado. Kaylin Strain. She just came over from Gil's Tuesday night Homestead channel. I was over there as well. Sometimes, just you guys, the family that we've engendered is my relaxation. So thank you so much for all you do. And thank you for how you take care of each other. Cats and Prepping. Well, the whole problem is that I was told to reduce costs before we got to court. So one of the costs was it was costing me $250 a month just to keep the business open. And so that was one of those expenses I had to reduce. So I had to close the business. So I no longer have a business to write off as a business expense. So no, that's, and then if I did write it off as a business expense now, if I ever get the money through the legal system, then I would have to claim that as an income, and I don't want to do that. Chef Tech 86, good evening, Mark. Welcome, good to see you. Let me see if there's anybody else here. Sue Me, one of my favorite Canadians. Anybody else? Wow. Yeah, I was telling Maggie earlier today, we had a neighbor. Well, we've got two stories. So number one is we had two guys. They lived close to each other. They were best friends in LA. One was the keyboardist for the Playboy Mansion. So, he did all the music for the Playboy Mansion when they had singers come in and everything else. I think I told you about the time that he had, I'm going to forget her name now. He had a famous singer come visit him, and he called us and had us come over. And then that was my wife's favorite album. So we would play it driving back and forth to Brownwood to visit the relatives. Carole King's Tapestry. And so he invited us over. He said, "Hey, Allison, I'm going to put a song on, play it, sing it." So she sang it, and this woman just went crazy, ecstatic, and just clapping and screaming and everything else. And then after Allison got through singing it, she said, "Allison, I would like for you to meet Carole King." So my daughter sang a Carole King song to Carole King. So that was something else. But anyhow, the next door neighbor was a Triumph motorcycle collector and salesperson. He did it over eBay or equivalent or whatever. But when the Gerald tornado hit, and the Gerald tornado is considered to be one of the strongest tornadoes that hit the United States, that was just north of us up here, and it split into three as it came down. And one of those three went down our backyard. And so there was a series of tornadoes over the course of about 3 to 5 days. And Jeff was standing out in the street watching. I said, "Jeff, get inside your house. It's a tornado." He says, "Well, I want to watch it." And I said, No, you need to be inside. You can't stand outside and watch it. But anyhow, he finally went inside. But they were used to earthquakes, not the tornadoes, and they didn't understand. But we got it taken care of. So, it looks like Shenanigans is sharing something. Oh, wow. Yeah, it gets expensive, especially after a large loss in that area. The Green Man Prepping Technical Tuesday tonight, it was Go-Go Gadget night. So I don't think he caught it, or what do you call it? Gadget? I forget what the name of it was, but I said Go-Go Green Man. I don't think he caught that, but anyhow. Go-Go Gadget was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Oh yeah, I am quite certain. And the same thing in California with all the wildfires, and it's getting almost impossible to insure anything anymore. I have a family member who lives up in Gerald in a manufactured home. And I don't know why. I think they have sensors built into them that say, "Hey, tornado, come here." But anyhow, her area was the one that was just missed. The one just the other side of her was hit and had several deaths. But anyhow, let me see. You are so absolutely correct, Shenanigans. You're spot on. That's where everybody is going to end up sharing the burden of the cost. And I don't know. I guess you could convince me to go either way on that. I think we need to share some of that collective burden as far as the rates and be able to dissipate that over the country. But then again, there are people who are going to say, not my problem. I chose to live here to avoid that. And I get that. But, still there's something we should be able to do to help each other. So, yeah. We had rainfall just west of us. We had, as a matter of fact, where Helen and I met and got married, they had flooding yesterday and the day before. So, wow. It's crazy. I pay out the yin yang. We have a lot of hailstorms here. And so I have a $500 deductible on my roof for hail damage. But the standard is like a $3,000 deductible. So I pay out the yin yang for insurance for that. But I just can't afford $3,000. I guess it's kind of like amortizing it over a monthly plan instead of paying the $3,000 deductible. I'm not really sure. Great. That's so good to hear. So Sumi is a nurse up in Alaska, in Canada, and does quite a bit on the roads. The insurance rates going up as a way to force people into 15-minute cities. That's a possibility. I don't have one way I could argue for it or against it. I'll take your word for it. That's for sure. Okay, so that looks like it's here. Where are we? Last year we had floods after droughts. I always had some insurance companies bail out and not renewing policies, even if the customer had no claims. That's going on nationwide. Yes, drought insurance here, crop insurance. There's all kinds of things. I think the crop insurance, the way that they're doing that is they're trying to get the smaller farmers to sell out to the conglomerates. And the conglomerates that are buying right now are Chinese companies. So the Chinese companies are buying up farmland and then converting, especially in the plains, and converting that farmland into electrical production. They figure it's better use of the land. But that's going to cause shortages in food in the near future. So, gosh, things have got to change. That's for sure. I don't know about that, but I do know that I know someone who's had some problems with building codes, that the house was sold to them and didn't exactly meet building codes, and because of a snowstorm, it wasn't. They didn't do the inspection, and da. And now that everything is over, they're having to pay through the yin yang roof, a decking that wasn't up to code that was added on. A personal rebuild of a shower system that's got black mold coming up out as a result of it. I mean, it's crazy. So yes, there's all kinds of crazy things, and that's part of the problem I'm having with my HOA right now as well. Okay. I was watching the news from Honolulu today, and they were talking about the 15-minute cities and how good they were for everyone. I doubt that very seriously. But, October 1st is coming quick. Everyone get what they can now before costs hike again due to backup in the shipping industry. Yes. So they're anticipating the entire East Coast. What is it? The longshoremen or the stevedores or both are going to go on strike as of the 1st of October. So, we'll see. My insurance is more than my mortgage. I totaled my truck Saturday, and that is why I'm here today. Can't work a second job. Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope things will get resolved for you very quickly. Yeah. If you own the food production sources, you own the world. That's just the way there is. I am all for that, Kaylin. I think we need to totally reassess how we allow foreign ownership of companies, of property, of a lot of different things. Yeah. So, and China has also been buying an awful lot of available land around military installations, which is kind of shady. Shady, I said, Shady, not the other word, that it almost sounded like. Not yet, little known prepper. That's something that one of the candidates wants to do is push through taxes on unrealized capital gains. Let me see here. Okay. I think that's wonderful. I wholeheartedly support that. I wish we would do that in Texas. So Holly Ivins is loading up on canned meats, canned foods. I think that's sheep meat, Sumi. I think that's probably just a finger. Instead of the pinky, it went to the index finger typing. One of the things you have to do as a crypt analyst is you have to understand, typing errors and Morse code errors. Is it ET dida or is it A alpha dida? So little things like that. You have a tendency to overlook them. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to talk this evening about 9 additional considerations. That's pretty much the end of the book. Let me tell you something, bringing everything together. I guess we could do one. No, we'll try to get the book totally finished this evening. Look, there's this much stuff in this book. Almost 10% of this book is nothing but links to great books, great lists, great appendices, a 47-point checklist. Let me see what else we got here. Resources, places you can get free samples, all kinds of wonderful stuff. I think the links are worth more, far more than the value of the book. And the book is very valuable. So please pick up a copy of this book. I think you'll really get something out of it. It's very much worth its weight. It's well worth the price that you're paying for it. Okay, so here's a joke because the first topic here. So as an old man, I was walking down the street the other day and saw a young bebopper and told him to pull his pants up because I could see his underwear. And so I turned around and started to walk away, and he thought that he would get me with we used to call them jerkies, but he grabbed a hold and jerked up, surprised him. No undershorts, depends. Oh, well, that's an old fart joke. So don't forget to stock up on diapers and pull-ups. Did I tell you that I'm so old that I went into a antique store the other day and they wouldn't let me out of my own recognizance? Don't forget formulas and baby food. Don't forget your medications, educational supplies. I've been storing up when I go to Walmart or when I go to the half-price bookstore. I buy those little, those giant books, those workbooks for each age group of my 3 grandchildren. I buy extra pens, pencils, paper. Right now is a great time to stock up on spiral binders. They were like $1 each at Walmart. But you've got all kinds of great supplies you can get. Go to your local half-price bookstores. You're going to be able to get all kinds of high school books and things like that. I went to school, forgot my book, didn't turn it in, had to pay full price. Then over the summer, I found my book and I go, oh, what am I going to do with it? They aren't going to buy it back. So you take that to half-price books. They'll buy it from you. That's where I picked up my all 4 years of English books from half-price books. Still the same books that I used when I was in high school. As a matter of fact, they're talking about changing the books here in Texas here in the near future. Toys. Pick up toys, yard toys, adult yard toys, so that, if you have any downtime, you'll be able to do a little bit of entertainment. Maybe on the Sabbath, you can do something fun and, lawn darts, cornhole, washers, pitching washers, balloons with darts, whatever. What kinds of things can you do where people might be able to compete with each other, have fun, just relax if you get the opportunity? Okay, so that was number one. And then number two area is pest control, vital to your health. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He says, don't forget your pets. Certainly get pet food, moist, dry food. Most dry food will stay good for many months, even years. So I have, let me show you what I have. And then I'll just put it down next to me when I get done so that I'll put it up later. This is one of those PVC buckets, okay, pet buckets. We have 3 of these. And so what I can do is each one is numbered, and that way I can rotate them. Each one, I just filled this one up this morning. So this is what a 20-pound bag of dog food does to the insides. So it's about 2/3 full. So this is probably going to hold about 30 pounds of dry dog food. Once you screw the lid on, it is airtight and it lasts forever. So, for the 2 that you're not using, just throw in a oxygen absorber, and that will last me about, because I got 3 Chihuahuas, so that lasts about 3 months. So with 3 of those, I know I've got at least 9 months worth of food. That's great. So, make sure you take care of your pets as well. And then I try to buy a can of canned dog food every time I go to Walmart, just as an addition to what I have in the 3 buckets. I probably need to pick up another bucket here shortly. Let me see, catch up with chat. It looks like I'm way up here. Yep, way up here. Unions, they aren't even representing their people based on what the union people are voting for. Yeah, I saw that. Was it the UAW or was it the Steelworkers Union? One of the unions, 80% of the population voted to support one candidate. The union leadership wanted to support the other candidate. So they decided that they aren't going to support either candidate. So the union is not endorsing either candidate. First time since about the 1930s. That they have not endorsed the candidate from that party. So, things are a-changing. That's for sure. Let me see. Yes, that's very true. We're the only one that does a lot of things that are kind of crazy, but we have, and it's quite often misinterpreted. But the way our Constitution reads is that a native-born citizen is somebody whose parents are here legally. So, according to the Constitution, although we've misread that for quite a while, if you're born here, we allow you to be a citizen here, and then because you're a citizen, your illegal parents are allowed to apply for citizenship. That's wrong. So it says basically under, let me see, do I have my Constitution here with me? Anyhow, the way it's worded, it says under the jurisdiction of the United States, which means here legally. But anyhow, so we're the only country that gives citizenship to just anybody who was born here for any reason. That's kind of crazy. Oh, wow. That does not surprise me, Diana, too. So the area between Douglas, Arizona, Douglas, Bisbee, and Sierra Vista, the southeastern corner, is the highest drug trafficking area there is. That's right next to Fort Huachuca. I spent 4 years there, my last 4 years on active duty. And they even have drug dirigibles with ground side-looking airborne radar, looking down with radar. There would be mule convoys of drugs coming across the border. Like, it was unbelievable. So it does not surprise me. However, I do know that just if you take a look at El Paso, Texas, so the Rio Grande comes up, you've got the border comes across like this, then you've got the international border continues due west, and you've got Sunland Park, New Mexico, which is where the racetrack is in New Mexico, but right there real close to El Paso, so we could all go bet on the horses. But anyhow, Sunland Park, and then just southwest of there is an Al-Qaeda training center right there, just southwest of that. So Al-Qaeda is present. They do have a training facility just southwest of Sunland Park, just due west of the city of Ciudad Juarez. And so, yeah, we know that Arab terrorists and Middle Eastern, what would we call that? Afghanistan area terrorists. Now that group proceeds west into the Caucasus, and so you've got all the way over to Moldova. Those people, you have different Chechnya, all different kinds of groups who are not very happy with things in general and us specifically. Yes, I love your governor too. She is phenomenal. Rebecca, and I kind of like mine, but I tell you what, I think he could do a little bit more than what he is. Yes, coloring books, crayons for the preschoolers, absolutely, and for things to do outside. Also, I would recommend this is a great therapy for people who have post-traumatic stress syndrome, and it's going to be, there may be a lot of that. You may have to do some PTSD stress counseling type of thing with your community. There are adult coloring books and the fine felt tip markers. That's a great therapy for PTSD. So I strongly recommend you consider that too. Jarts, thank you, Mark. That's a great one. That's lawn darts, basically. Although I saw somewhere that they were outlawing them because they're darts that can be thrown and they're afraid they could stick into children. I don't think they're that sharp, but oh well. Sunday, one of the giveaway items that was put at the end of our powwow I was at was a set of tactile flashcards. Each has an animal picture with a texture area representing. Wow, that's phenomenal. Great going there, Kaylin. That's phenomenal. Tabletop role-playing games, that could be good. Let me see. That is an airtight container. That and I said, and the other two, I put oxygen absorbers in. So I have 3, and this one doesn't have an oxygen absorber in it because it'll be used up in quite a little bit of time. The other 2 do have oxygen absorbers in them. Now, I will be honest, when you put oxygen absorbers in to these screw top lids, it can take a little bit of oomph to get them to open. So just be cautious. You don't want to overdo it, or you'll have a vacuum like you'll have to rent Superman to come open it. I can guarantee you that. Let me see. Yeah, and if you had a bigger one, even a pit bull, they definitely eat a lot. Kaylin rotates between 2 cat food buckets. Yep, same thing. Subscribe and save. Is that Amazon? Yeah, Amazon. Great. I have heard mixed reviews on Chewy. I don't know. Let me see. My most daunting task is trying to stock up for the cats. Having so much difficulty. Oh, I have so many, it's difficult. I understand. I'm afraid that we're going to be down one here in the near future. The 15-year-old is having some problems, and So, we're on a watch that things may have to change here in the near future. It's getting to the point now where her hind legs are giving out on her. She's going blind. She's definitely going deaf, although she's probably listening to me now. And then she's had some bladder control and some bowel control issues here over the course of the last 2 or 3 days. And so that is usually an indication that either the liver or the kidneys are giving out, and that can mean that time is limited. But she's my girl. She's always been my girl. And even when she belonged to my daughter, before my daughter asked me to keep her for her, I was her favorite person. So we've had this relationship going on now for the full 15 years. Making your own, and sometimes giving table scraps is just too much. It can aggravate the digestive system of animals. So, be very, very cautious with a whole bunch of table scraps. That's great. I need to count calories too. By the way, what's the name of it? I went and bought a new pair of slacks today at Duluth Trading Company. Has their annual sale going on, 25% off. So the only time I can ever afford Duluth Trading Company clothing is when they have a sale going on. So we went and found a very medium for them priced pair of slacks, and I got me a pair of Duluth Trading Company slacks. Now, I tell you, when you get them, they last forever. You're going to change sizes before you wear them out. But Duluth Trading Company also has a 1-year, no questions asked return policy. So if I snap a button, or if they shrink while washing or anything like that, between now and the 1 year from now that I buy them, I can take them back for any reason and get a full refund. No questions asked. Love the company because of the way they treat their customers. Just sometimes it's worth it. There used to be a company called SAS Shoe Store, and SAS stood for San Antonio Shoes. And so all of my shoes, as a matter of fact, growing up, all I ever had were cowboy boots, Tony Lamas, because we lived right real close to the Tony Lama factory. So the first shoes I had were issued to me in the Army. Up until that time, it was all cowboy boots. And then I continued to buy Tony Lamas afterwards, for civilian shoes. So the first shoes that I really, really bought for shoes to wear were some loafers from San Antonio Shoes. And the same thing. You bought them, and then if anything went wrong with them over the entire lifetime, $30 for a complete refurbishing. They would send them down to the factory and basically rebuild them for you for $30. So that's where all of my shoes were. But the company went bankrupt. Tells you. Before you offer a $30 lifetime guarantee, make sure that your shoes are going to last that long. And you don't have to spend all your money on guarantees and honoring those. I sometimes I think that's the reason they raise their prices is that they aren't making enough money off the stuff that they're trying to push. So Mark says, the jorts have been outlawed. I think that was the thought process was, if I remember right, somebody got hit in the back of the head or something with one decades ago, and they started a nationwide thing to outlaw them. Chalkboard, yes, absolutely. Dry erase boards. I've got a big dry erase board that I put on my easel. I have a marker pad. If you go back, I have another channel, and if you go back to the first video I made, which was back in the 90s, late 90s, maybe the early 2000s, when YouTube first came out. Herdy Burt came over and he did some videotaping of me, and I was writing some stuff on a chalkboard and on my marker board, and so you can see that there. Cats and Prepping says she loves Chewies. Like I said, I've heard mixed reviews. Some people really love it. Some people really hate it. Kaylin says, and that's probably very realistic. It just depends on what you're ordering. Hey, Gil, welcome. Good to see you. Well, don't. If you're listening, we can't talk about you. Doggone it. Okay, pest control. So it's vital to your health. Make sure you have plenty of insecticides, wasp spray. Let me tell you, we aren't going to have the pest control, the companies and everything else that we have now. So two things. Number one, your insects are going to exponentially grow in a post-apocalyptic world. Number two, you're going to have an awful lot of trash. You're also going to have an awful lot of sewage that you're going to be disposing of. That's going to attract rodents and other wild animals. So you've got to be prepared to handle that as well, along with all the insects. So of course, sewage is going to attract flies and all those kinds of things, and mosquitoes and everything else. So learn how to mitigate that now. Make sure you have all the appropriate insecticides and everything else you're going to need to handle those situations, because most people are not going to know that the terrors they're going to be experiencing as a result of a lack of insect and rodent control. Mosquitoes transmit viruses, heartworms, etc. So make sure you have those under control. Fleas carry typhus, tapeworms. Cockroaches spread diseases such as dysentery and cholera. Raccoons, listen to this, Mark. Raccoons could be rabid, and their feces are home to an assortment of bacteria and viruses like E. coli and salmonella. Other rodents carry hantavirus, leptospirosis, and rat bite fever. Bird droppings carry many diseases. They also carry many eggs. I was talking to a guy, a friend of mine, who is with Texas Parks and Wildlife. He's a ranger. And we were talking about the fact that the only natural lake in Texas is actually a widening of the Red River along the border with Arkansas. And it's called Lake Caddo. All the other lakes in Texas are man-made. How come there are so doggone many snakes, water snakes, in all of our lakes? And he explained that the reason is because the birds, migratory birds, eat the snake eggs. And then as they're flying over some of the watery areas, they'll poop and those eggs fall. And that's how we got all of our water snakes. So be aware of bird droppings. They can be very harmful. Ticks, fleas, and rats carry the plague. Okay. So that's it on rodent control. Also, Lake Caddo. And I think that's what I said. Is that what I said? That's a good one to know. I know that there are some plants, it might be peppermint, that they say to plant around your yard as a natural barrier to a lot of things. I believe that peppermint is also a natural barrier to rabbits, if you don't want rabbits coming into your yard. But I'm not an expert on that. Okay. Yes, as a matter of fact, and they've been hard to get. I think today is the cutoff day for Azure Standard orders, and I got a 55-gallon oil drum, and they are very inexpensive on Azure Standard. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I will have a burn barrel. Okay, page 92. Why bartering is a bad idea. This guy and I so much in sync. I'm not a big fan of bartering during a collapse for two main reasons. First, preparing to barter may encourage you to purchase items you'll never use instead of supplies that you know you'll need at some point. For example, you may choose to purchase high-demand items like alcohol, cigarettes, and coffee beans because you know people will pay top dollar for them during the collapse, when you should have spent that money on more toilet paper, medicines, and soap. I wholeheartedly agree. I say buy what you need, and if you have extras, if you need it, they need it. So I am not into one about buying a whole bunch of luxury items. I also disagree. There are things out there. People say you can do these emergency things. Get a can of Crisco and put a wick in it, and bang, you've got a candle. Don't buy Crisco to turn it into a candle. It's cheaper to buy emergency candles. Crisco can be made into an emergency candle when it goes rancid and you no longer want to eat it or no longer want to cook with it. Use things for their intended and buy things for their intended use. And then if you need to, you can substitute something else for that product if it comes to the point to where you need it. Don't buy things strictly to use as a substitute, and don't buy things strictly to barter. Second, I believe attempting to barter, at least early on, places your safety at risk because you put yourself out there as somebody who has excess supplies and therefore likely has much more stashed away at home. It wouldn't take long for the wrong people to follow you home, only to overwhelm you and demand everything you have. Of course, it is possible to barter through a trusted third party, such as a priest, but that has disadvantages as well. Selko Begovic says that they had snipers that were looking to take people out on their barter excursions. I mean, if you read Furfall's books, he doesn't have that much to say good about bartering. Venezuela Prepper. Now he was. Something tells me he was kind of a black marketeer, and so he kind of thought that it was a good thing. But I tell you, I'm scared of barter. I'm scared of people knowing what I have. I'm scared of people knowing what I don't have. I really don't want to put anything out there. If it can't fit in your pocket when you go to a barter exchange, then don't barter it. That's a simple rule. So maybe a Zippo lighter, maybe a Bic lighter or something like that. But if it's something where people are going to see you're taking it to a meeting, then they know you're going to a barter meeting, then that sets you up for failure. Put it in your pocket. Only carry those things that you can hide in your pocket so that it doesn't look obvious you're going to barter for anything. And only look for things you can carry home in your pocket. I would say that as well. So, Kaylin says she picked up a candle Sunday. I tell you, one of the best deals out there is go to a dollar store. They got the religious candles. They used to be $1. They burn for forever. If you object to the religious things that are connoted with it, it's a plastic sheet that goes around it. Just rip it off. You don't have to have the religion on it if you don't want it. But for $1.25 for a soy candle there's that big, fantastic. That's a separate thing, Maggie, because and let me tell you why I think it's separate. Because with a hurricane, that it's going to be a short duration thing and that the rule of law is going to return. So people know that if they do anything to you as a result of your kindness, that there is retribution coming once the sheriff or the police or the county or the state highway patrol, whoever, comes back into play. So I would say when you know that there's going to be an eventual restoration of law and order, that's a totally different mindset than when you aren't sure if there's going to be a restoration of law and order. When you've gone 3 days without food, that's quite different than having gone 3 weeks without food. If you know that there are truckloads coming in, like in a hurricane, that's quite different than not knowing if there are any trucks anywhere in an SHTF situation. So I think the two are not necessarily comparable. But that's just my opinion. Cats and Prepping agrees there won't be any safe. And Holly, one of the things you need to do is get some training on escape and evasion, especially evasion. So making sure you take several circuitous routes. Never take the same route to someplace after SHTF or the same route home twice. Always do a different route so that and then the last bit before you go home, have an overwatch. This is where having those FRS or GMRS radios, the FRS, the handy talkie that's very short range, You can put it on a channel. Then that way you can let your people know when you're coming in for that last leg, so they can look for anybody who might be tailing you. You can have an observer out maybe at the end of the block. And as you come by, they can observe and see if anybody's following you. And if they are, they can call you and say, hey, don't go to the house, make another trip around and I'll engage this person and keep them off your butt. But, that's where having those handy talkies is really going to be valuable. A step up from that, but not necessarily one I can afford, would be to have a good, the hovercraft. Somebody's going to help me out down here at the bottom. When you get my age, you forget all kinds of crust. So it's CRS. Can't remember poo-poo. What are they called? The hovercraft. Drones. Thank you. There we go. See, I told you. I got the best audience out there. That you guys help me out. So yeah, maybe even a drone. If you have a drone up and you can have some sort of a downlink from the camera. Oh, fantastic. That's what you really want to do. Great way of putting it, Laura. I've never thought of it that way, but you are absolutely correct. Are we going to have another holiday is a question. I'm not even sure if we're going to make it till the elections. We've got things really heating up in the Middle East. We've got things really heating up with Russia. So Congress and the president met today to discuss COG, which is the continuity of government. They're trying to get it so that there's always some elected official not in the DC area, so that they can have continuity of government. That person can assume the leadership of the government if something happens to DC. So they're talking about that right now. That kind of gives you an idea of what they're thinking about. Moscow has practiced their getting into bomb shelters. There's stuff going on that's enough to scare you if you know what's going on. So I'm not so sure. I would be picking up whatever I can right now. Excuse me, to be totally honest with you. I don't know if I told you or not, but the pulmonologist finally got back to me this morning, and for my coughing and everything else and my lung issue, he's referring me to an ENT. He thinks that there may be something in my windpipe that's causing all this problem with my coughing and breathing and everything else. We shall see. But anyhow, so let me see. I've been prepping meals for the last 3 days for this, but we are setting up a camp kitchen station out of our. That's fantastic. Just make sure somebody is on guard duty. Don't have your back to the crowd. Don't let anybody get behind you. So if you're going to set it up in your garage, set the table up so that you are completely inside your garage and the people are not coming inside your garage, but they're at the edge of your garage as you're serving them. And then make sure you have an overwatch, somebody who is to your side and somebody who is to your back, so that if anything happens, they've got you covered. That would be my recommendations on that. So last year, Walgreens had the Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead or Halloween. It's basically, so the theological ramifications of Halloween go back to the ancient church. And so it was believed that all the souls in purgatory ascended into heaven on the evening right before All Saints Day. So All Saints Day is November 1st. So the thought was that you could see that the saints who had finished their purgatory would be ascending into heaven that evening, okay? Which is where Ichabod Crane and a lot of the other ones came from. It's kind of a Protestant adaptation of a Catholic belief. So the whole thing about All Hallows Eve is all the people, all the saints who had died, who had venial sins and had to make preparations for those sins, would ascend into heaven on All Hallows Eve, and that's how came about with Halloween. And so it's basically, originally it was a sacred pro-religion, pro-theology, saintly holiday, and but it's kind of morphed so that now it's more of a uh, secular devil thing. So we don't participate. We don't participate here at this house at all. We turn our lights off. Don't turn the lights on. We don't buy candy. We don't give anything away. We don't dress up. We don't do anything. Don't have any yard decorations. We just don't participate. But that's it. It has kind of morphed over time. Absolutely. Thank you, Kaylin. That's a great idea. So there's my drone comments. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for helping me out there. Yeah, so make sure you get some fans, some solar powered fans. I've got probably one, two, three, four, and then I've got two out in the garage. I've got at least 6 fans because I know. See, with my whole house solar system, it's only 110, 120, whereas the air conditioning unit outside is 220, 240. So I know that my battery system for my solar system will not operate my air conditioning system. So we have a small black and white 1-room air conditioner, and that'll be set up in our bedroom. And then anybody who is suffering from heat that's in my trusted group can go into the bedroom and cool down. But that's how we're going to do that. So that's fantastic. Way to think that one out. That's great. That's great. Let me see. Well, if you're using a stove, like a butane stove inside the garage is fine. I probably would not want to use anything that produces carbon monoxide, even in an open garage. I personally, I would not do that. But what you can do is, if you have a safe area in your backyard, if you're going to use charcoal or anything else that emits carbon monoxide, then I would do that outdoors where it's safely ventilated, unless you have a fan. Now, if you have a fan and you can evacuate all that carbon monoxide that's a byproduct of burning wood or anything, charcoal, anything like that, then I would say just make sure you have a good carbon monoxide detector. Okay, so those are battery operated, and that should help you. Let me see. So, I think the last study was that like 18% of the United States smokes, 20% drinks alcohol. So, just think, if you're saving cigarettes or if you're saving alcohol, then you're catering to a very small population. Now, not to offend anybody, but somebody also said that feminine hygiene products would be extremely valuable in a post-apocalyptic world. I'm sorry, but I'm an analyst. I look at numbers. So the way I look at it is 50% of the population is female, but not all those females need those products. Okay, so we can arbitrarily say that 1/3 of the female population is above the age where they're going to need those products. 1/3 of the female population is below the age where they're going to need those products. So only 1/3, maybe 1/2 of the female population is in the age where they're going to need those products. So now, if you do the math on this, you're looking at 1/2 of 1/2 of the population, or 1/4 of the population. So it's not going to be a, quote, high demand product as far as volume. However, as far as intrinsic value to the person who needs it, it's going to have extremely high value. So it's not going to be something that's in voluminous demand, but it is going to be something that is going to be highly prized by the small portion of the population that wants it. Okay, does that make sense? Did I cover that appropriately? I hope I didn't offend anybody, but that's just Lee's numbers game of how I deal with that. Okay. Building relationships is essential. Absolutely do that now. it's going to be difficult to formulate trusting relationships in a very short time, but we're going to have to do it and find out people. Number one, just if nothing else, find out the people you can't trust, okay, and put those off. Thank you, Teresa. So he says he was very much against the idea of taking in the unprepared. I'm not. My Tuesday morning men's group, I handed him a 2-page letter today, and it basically says, here's what I expect from you. Here's what you can expect from me. Okay, I'm going to feed you. I'm going to house you. I'm going to clothe you. I'm not going to clothe you. I'm going to feed you, house you, shelter you. But here's what I expect from you. I expect 12 hours of work a day, 6 days a week. I expect at least 2 guard shifts, one morning and one evening, or one daylight, one nighttime on the Sabbath. But on the Sabbath, we're not going to do any work other than cooking, cleaning, and guard duty. It's going to be basically a day off. And I would appreciate it if you bring food. I would appreciate it. I want you to bring all your pew-pews and all your freedom seeds. I want you to bring these things. I said, now I'm going to provide you with radios. Okay, I will keep your radios charged. I would prefer that you get flashlights if you need them that are going to be powered by either AA or AAA batteries that I can recharge. So it's up to you to get the rechargeable batteries. I will recharge them, but you need to get the original batteries. It would be even better, because I have smaller portable solar systems, for you to get a USB rechargeable flashlight, because I can just plug that into my smaller. I've got 3 or 4 smaller Gold Zero type solar chargers. I can just throw those out in the backyard and charge your flashlight in just a couple seconds, a couple minutes. So those are the kinds of things that I am expecting of the people who are coming here to help me. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sarah, Emma, and Linda. I've got 10 people that are going to be coming here. Oh, the other thing I told them was bring a cot and bring your own sleeping bag and pillow. And a wool blanket would be fantastic too. So we're going to have, Mark, Juanita, Craig, plus 10. We're going to have 15 people here in the house, okay? So that's going to be plenty as far as guard duty and everything else. And then setting up the cooking for people outside. So, it's going to be an awful lot of people. But I think I think we can make it work. And everybody knows each other and we all get along. So that's great too. So he says, so he is at the age where it's going to be painful, and if not physically challenging, to chop wood, go out and get wood. That's why you need those numbers. That's why 15 people becomes important, because people can go out and collect firewood. People can go out and collect water. People can have a guard with them to keep cover over them. We can still have guard duty here. We can still be cooking and eating and feeding here. So the more people you have, the better off we're going to be. As long as you have something to put it on. If you want to put it inside, we don't have anything structurally inside the house that could probably handle hanging your hammock. Now, if you have a frame for it, that's perfect. So that would be fine. Absolutely, Utah Mike. Stress does strange things to people. I've acted weird under stress. I kind of went a little almost off the edge 9/11 because I watched it happen, and it just upset me. And my whole life just went before me in front of my eyes. And there was a period there, a couple hours, I was really concerned and really almost PTSD type. So the safety in numbers, the more the better. The closer you are to them, the better. I have told Sumi, I've told Maggie that if they can find their way here with their loved ones, they are welcome here as well. If you don't have a place to go and you're a member of this channel, and I've seen you on here for some time, and you need a place to come to, come on. Let me know, and I will send you a copy of the letter I gave them on what I would appreciate you bringing with you when you come. And that's it. So let me see. Next one. Gosh, we're getting close to quitting time, aren't we? Learn to do with less or without. I practice it now. Turn on the water, get wet, turn the water off, shower down, soap up, shampoo up, turn the water off, rinse it off, turn the water off. Use minimum amount of water. Learn to turn the water on, get your hands wet, turn the water off, soap, wash your hands, turn the water on, rinse it off, turn the water off. Save as much water as you can now. Learn to get into that habit. I count the number of sheets of toilet paper that I use. Believe it or not, I pull off 4 sheets at a time, and that's it. And I may do that 2 or 3 times, but I try to. I don't grab a handful. I'm very, I count the number of sheets that I'm pulling off of the roll when I use toilet paper. So I don't use Kleenex. Believe it or not, this is a paper towel. Don't want to gross anybody out, but we have those selected size paper towels. So I just fold up a selected size paper towel, and that's what I use to wipe my sniffling nose. So you can make use of things, reuse aluminum foil. Learn how to start saving on things right now. Will you ration what's remaining? Will you ration to start with? How much food do you have? How long will it last? The whole thing goes on calories. Remember that on average, I'm going to say on average, okay, you want 2,000 calories per person per day. If somebody's out there doing strenuous labor, make sure they get the leftovers. Make sure that they get the extra calories, because they're going to be burning them with all the manual labor. People who aren't doing that much manual labor like me, I probably could get by on 1,500 calories, maybe even less. So if you're not doing a whole bunch of manual labor, then we might have to adjust calories from those who don't need them to those who do need them. So, make sure you're aware of that. And one of the things you want to do is, as you print things out, so I did this today. I printed out a recipe I liked, and this is cowboy stew. So one of the things I did was, it says that it's 10 servings, and each serving is 620 calories. Okay. So you want to make sure that you know the calorie count on anything you're going to be cooking and serving, so that you can make sure that you're giving more to the people who are doing the more physical labor. Will you ration? Okay. Is there an effective alternative? Like I said, don't use the alternative as a primary. Use the primary for the primary and the alternative when it comes to it. How important is it what you're missing? Go through. I recommend doing an exercise, turning off the electricity for a day or 2. Go out in your backyard. Use your camp cooker. Use your camp stuff. Use your freeze-dried foods. Use your MREs. Use whatever. Learn now what you don't have that you need to have in order to make it work, so that you can make sure that you have enough. One of these days, I'll show you. Out in my backyard, I've got 3 35-gallon trash cans. 2 of them have charcoal. The third one has the expensive fire log bricks in it. And then after I put the fire log bricks in it, I still wanted, there was all kinds of room. So I went and got some of that pellet wood that they have for pellet stoves. And I got 2 bags of that and filled up the vacant spots in between the wood, the fire logs. So all that void space in between those fire logs inside the trash can is now filled with those pellets. I can put those in my little bitty solo stove, right? And use those to cook with. So think of the ways that you can save space, and think of the ways that you can cram more into an obvious space. Look for void spaces where you can put smaller stuff in between them. Do you have unnecessary supplies, and are you doing things you don't need to be doing? Constantly assess that. If there's something, I'm going out in the garage, I've had my basic Russian books, my advanced Russian books. I've had my basic Indonesian books. Gosh, I took basic Indonesian in 1971. We went through a book a week, and I was there for 47 weeks. I've got 47 books that are probably this size, okay, out in the garage in a box. I've got 3 years of that, 2 years of Russian and 1 year of Indonesian. I haven't looked at those boxes since I retired from the Army in 1991. It's time to get rid of them. They're not doing me any good. That space I could use for something else. So, we just got to get rid of the stuff you don't need so you can make room for the stuff you do need. And if you can't afford to financially prepare, get with somebody else who is preparing, who can financially afford it, and say, look, here's the situation. What can I do to earn my keep? And just talk to them. Say, here's where I am. Example, sue me as a nurse. Tell me that's not a valuable skill to have in a post-apocalyptic world. She knows far more about medicine than anybody else on this block, except for the other nurse who lives down the block. Okay. So, that kind of knowledge, those skills, what do you have that nobody else has to offer? And if you don't have that, learn how to do it. Crochet, knit, repair clothing, repair shoes, find a hobby that can make you a little bit of money so you can use that to invest in more prepping supplies. All kinds of good things you can do. So that's it for the book for tonight. What a great idea, but I don't think anybody would be interested in DLI books, to be honest with you. Okay, so I'm off my soapbox. We're at an hour and 7 minutes. Oh my gosh, did I go all over again? Kaylin kept all of her Spanish books. I should have. I wish I still had my Latin books from high school. I wish I still had my Greek books from the seminary. I wish that I had a lot of things that I have given up. I had an entire collection of Robert Heinlein books, first editions. Oh my gosh. I don't know where they've gone. That somewhere in all the shipments and all the movements and everything else, they just got lost. But oh gosh, such as something else. Thank you, Teresa. That's very, very kind of you. Although I want to respect your time as well, and I do appreciate you all giving it to me. So next week, what I plan on doing is Monday evening. We're still going to continue on with the list of lists from James Wesley Rawles' book, the end, How to Survive Teotwaki, and so the Monday night's still going to be the same. Tuesday night, what we will do is we will start on volume 1 of NC Scout's book, The Guerrilla Dispatch. Okay, so we'll start this Tuesday night. That will be our last Tuesday night meeting. Okay, and then we're going to be on Mondays and Wednesdays. However, the next 2 Wednesdays, I have training for this to be, I have my instructor certification and qualifications to teach this. So those first 2 Wednesdays, the second and third Wednesdays in October, nothing. Then we won't have anything. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and then after that, it'll just be Monday for a couple of weeks, and then we'll get back into a habit. Okay, so the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. We need to grant the entire world peace. It's time, let's pray for peace. Pray for peace worldwide. Let's pray for peace amongst ourselves. Pray for peace in our country. We are far too divided. We don't talk anymore. We argue. We need to get to the point to where we can discuss our opinions and not castigate the other person because they don't see it exactly like we do. So thank you all for being here. Remember that we're all in this together. We've got to learn how to get along. We're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please continue, because I love you so much, to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the only thing that's going to see us through this. And it is the key. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. I will see you Monday at 8 o'clock Central Time. Bye-bye.